So we are here on the roof of the Ustmouth power plant in Wales, which Sanjeev Gupta has just got up and running. And right across there is the steel mill, which is also just about got up and running. So Sanjeev, a lot of new energy going into steel.
Yes, indeed.
And so, why did you get them going? I mean, where did this passion for steel and this new energy to feed steel come from?
So, I mean, fundamentally because it's a viable business and it's a profitable business. So we started, when the opportunity first came up to acquire that steel plant back about 3 years ago. It was in deep distress at that time. So we got the opportunity to acquire it at a good price. We spent quite some time fixing all the problems which had accumulated in the plant over years. And all of that came to a conclusion second half of last year when we were able to restart the plant without any, after having cleaned up all its debts, its legal claims and debt creditors and so on. So now today it runs as a totally debt-free, claim-free, creditor-free plant, and it's running and making money, as you can see.
You say it was in distress, and yet you also say it was profitable. How did you put the two together?
It had the potential to be profitable. The UK is one of the highest price markets for steel in the world. There are several things problematical with steel in the UK, but they are fixable. And this was the first step towards that.
And this is in Newport in Wales?
Yes.
And how far are we from Port Talbot?
About half an hour.
We are in Newport.
Yes.
We are about a short distance from Port Talbot.
Yes.
How far are we from getting Port Talbot for Liberty House Steel?
It's very much early days. We are. I mean, I can't say a great deal about the process because we are in a legally binding, exclusive, non-disclosure agreement. But we are engaged. We have put together a panel of experts. They are doing their analysis, and we will look. We will. It requires quite some time and quite some work, but we will make an attempt at making a bid for the assets.
So you will be making a bid for?
It is our intention.
Tata Steel.
Yes, definitely.
And you had stated your intention a while back. But from a statement of intention to a letter of intent is not a long distance. When are we likely to see the second?
So the LOIs are due, as everybody knows, it's public information. They're due next week. So we will be submitting our LOI.
So you will be submitting the letter of intent next week.
Yes.
To buy Tata Steel.
Yes.
All of Tata Steel?
As I said, we are in an NDA situation, so I will not say too much. But we have a panel of experts working, doing all the analysis, and we will be submitting a bid next week.
Right. But Tata has said, and I think the government have also indicated that they are not looking at a piecemeal sale of those assets. So you are still considering that?
Yes. We are. I mean, in all likelihood, we are submitting a bid for all the assets. That is our intention.
And that will be all of the plants, whether Port Talbot or in the Midlands or in the North?
Yes, correct.
All of them?
Yes.
And all of the elements in all of the plants?
All of the business for sale, yes.
Right. We've been hearing about the blast furnace versus arc furnace debate. Tell us in a nutshell, what is that debate about?
In a nutshell, I mean, I've spoken about it quite a bit already, so I won't go into a lot of detail. But in a nutshell, one melts scrap, domestically generated scrap, and makes steel from that route, and which is through an arc furnace, electric arc furnace.
And that is the blast furnace that Tata found unprofitable to run?
No, what I just described is an electric arc furnace, which is melting domestic scrap.
Right.
And a blast furnace makes primary steel from iron ore and coal, which is imported.
Right, which is what Tata has found unsustainable.
Yes. Correct.
And when you look at the whole works, and you look to buy the whole works, you would look to buy the blast furnace as well and run it.
Yes. No, I mean, our contention, as you know, which has been stated quite clearly, is that we would analyze the opportunity to convert some or all of the blast furnaces to arc furnaces over time.
With no redundancies?
Yes. Because the number of, if you are successfully able to convert from one to the other, there is no need for redundancies because you need more or less equal number of people in both the processes.
Right, and there has been some resistance to that as an idea.
Yes.
Where is that resistance coming from?
Well, there is a long tradition of primary steel making in the country, so there is some attachment to that. But fundamentally, we're not changing steel. We're not changing the fact that we will look to make steel. We will just make it from one process rather than another. But these are early days. We need to do the full modeling and the full due diligence. Once that is done, once we can assess the situation, we can present a full model, including where the technology comes from, what the cost of production is, what the profitability of the business will be, where the funding of that will come from. We will present all of that in full detail once we...
There have been some studies, in fact a very interesting study from Cambridge University suggesting that the arc furnace is the way of the future, because there is scrap available to make steel from, and that makes a lot more sense than importing iron ore and then producing steel from scratch. So is that the way forward for all of steel production, you believe, in this country? Can basic making from iron ore really be sustainable?
Look, the main point which you captured in your statement there is that there is a domestically available raw material. So our model will be focusing very much on seeing how we can use the domestically available raw material, which is more competitively available than imported raw material, to make a product which is more green, which is more sustainable. It is in alignment with the policy of this country and this government to decarbonize the economy. So it's green, what we call green steel. Green steel is produced from recycling steel, hopefully with the renewable energy. So, and it is sustainable in the long term, because scrap availability in the UK is only going to increase. There are, again, that same study which you talk about shows that the scrap availability in the UK will increase dramatically in years to come. So there will be an abundant competitive raw material locally available, and we will look to try and use that in one place or another. I mean, that plant there at the back end is where, which used to produce steel from arc furnaces, and our intention actually before the Port Talbot opportunity or the Tata opportunity came along, our intention, which is still the case, is to reinstate that and to melt steel here. So whether we do Tata or not, we will make steel from scrap in this country. There's no doubt about that.
Now we are on the roof of the power station that you just got going, and you speak about green steel.
Yes.
How green is this for steel?
Yes. So first of all, let's talk about two things. When you're recycling steel, you're basically saving carbon. So whichever form of energy you use, you've already gone a long way about being green. But you're right, this station is currently fired by coal. When we bought this plant back December year before last, it was with the intention to convert this to biomass. There were some changes in government policies after that, and there are still ongoing changes in policy, and we are still very much hopeful that we will convert this plant to be fired by biomass rather than coal, which would make it a green plant.
Very fascinating changes you're talking about, Sanjeev, but do we need changes also in government policy by way of pricing for energy, by way of pensions and commitment to pensions, because certainly these are huge issues that you would have to face as a potential buyer? I'm not going to talk about the Tata process, because as I explained, we are in a legally binding NDA situation. But energy, definitely, whether it is for any steel plant today, especially if it is a recycling plant, energy is an issue which needs to be addressed, which can be addressed either by by readjusting some of the policies or by making more and more renewable energy. So one of the two routes is the route to solving the energy problem which we are pursuing. Well, you do realize, Sanjeev, that you're bucking the fashion when a lot of people thinking that, well, steel is really a thing of the past, and you have this great faith in steel.
Steel cannot be a thing of the past.
Making steel in Britain would be a thing of the past, not steel itself, of course.
But Britain is a mature economy. A mature economy generates more and more scrap, and recycling that is only a natural step in the evolution of steel making. It is not something new. We're not trying to do something which is an invention. Countries like the US already produce most of their steel from recycling scrap. So it's a natural process. This country is not doing it because it has excess capacity in primary steel making. But primary steel making today is a challenge. But recycling steel is not and should not be a challenge, because the country is surplus in scrap. We should be able to melt. Almost every country in the world does it to a large extent. We are not following that trend, but we need to fix that.
Is that what you would bring to the operations that Tata could not? Or would not?
Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. The point is that recycling steel, generally speaking, is done in plants of 1 to 2 million tons. to go to 3 to 4 million tons. There are a few plants. There is a plant in Turkey, there are some in Korea, Japan and so on, but generally globally recycling still is done in smaller plants to 1 to 2 million tons. Plants like that which make 1 to 2 million tons. Larger plants generally don't are based on the primary route, but given a situation where you have to import all your raw material compared to domestically available raw material, there is logic in our mind at least to convert one to the other.
Now, we understandably, you are not going to speak about pensions. Certainly, that is a confidential matter that you have to consider and discuss and negotiate. But we've had Sajid Javed, the business secretary, saying that no new buyer could realistically take on that kind of burden. Is that kind of indication from the government welcome?
I prefer not to talk about it.
Sure. So let's talk about Liberty House and take a further walk down this very interesting plant that you run.